Bird scooters seem to be everywhere, and by the look of things, you'd think the company is flying high. Well, not so much. Facing a crowded field of competitors and pushback by local governments, making money is proving harder for the Santa Monica startup than they thought. But Bird hopes to survive in this challenging market, and last week the company announced a new electric scooter model, the Bird One. The Bird One will join the current fleet of scooters, and riders will also be able to buy the new model outright for $1,299 in black, dove, white, or electric rose. The company says the Bird One has a longer-lasting battery and is more durable than its predecessors. Meantime, LA Times business reporter Sam Dean has looked into the company's recent woes. Hey, Sam, this was so interesting.
Glad you thought so, yeah.
Well, remind us how the birds landed in Southern California.
So yeah, I think it was September 2017. They just started putting them out in the streets of Santa Monica. They were the first company to do it, and all of a sudden people were kind of riding them around. They figured it out, how to sign up on their phones, and instantly investors were like, whoa, people love this. Let's pour some money on top, you know?
And they did.
Yeah, they did. Within the next, I think, in the first 8 months, all of a sudden they had $400 million in their pockets, and they were valued at $2 billion. You know, and that was summer 2018, so like not that long ago. And all their competitors also got a ton of money poured in.
Okay, so explain to me how a company that's valued at $2 billion, is it making money?
Well, it's kind of normal for Silicon Valley companies to not make money for a long time. Like Uber, they still lose hundreds of millions of dollars a year because they're focusing on growth. What's actually strange about Bird is that they've stopped focusing on growth but are still losing money. They're trying to make money weirdly quickly for a company that has so much money that they're sitting on top of. Because the VC stuff, it's just pour money in so that they can lose it.
Venture capitalists.
Oh yeah, sorry, venture capitalists. Yeah, to just like acquire new customers all over the world.
There's a strategy. It's called blitz scaling.
Blitz scaling, yeah. That's the book by Reid Hoffman, the guy who did LinkedIn, and you know he's like made a ton of money at different companies. But yeah, the idea is you just grow to become as close to a monopoly as you can.
At all costs.
At all costs, and then you can raise prices and make money.
You know, an early Bird investor and a former Uber advisor said that growing from $50 million in valuation to $2 billion has never happened before, and it probably shouldn't.
Yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on a company to figure things out very quickly. And especially what's interesting about Bird is that they have all these fixed costs of hardware. I mean, they're making all their money on, or trying to make money on, these breakable scooters. It's not like software you can just hit like copy and paste and someone else has a copy of Netflix or whatever, you know?
So you have to build a scooter. You got to buy a scooter.
Yeah, it's just like a much more difficult thing to spread all over the globe. And they're not necessarily figuring it out right away.
And so what we also have is theft. We have vandalism.
A lot of vandalism.
They break. The lifespan was incredibly short. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, so they started with scooters that they just bought on the internet, basically. I mean, they bought them from Chinese companies. They were retail scooters that anyone could buy, and those ones were definitely very breakable. And they, you know, they kind of admitted that they were never intended to make money, which is kind of funny if you're pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into something. But, you know, they were like, oh, we knew that those would break right away, and they would break within 3 months max.
So they never earned back what they cost.
Yeah, and it would take about 6 months to start earning it back, even just to break even. So that's 3 months of just loss. And now, you know, they're claiming that they have these new scooters that are much more durable, that they custom designed, that have more powerful engines. And
is that the Bird Zero?
The Bird Zero, yeah. And that has a longer battery life, which makes it more efficient for all these reasons. But even that one might not be lasting as long as people hope.
You guys did something really interesting. You, the LA Times, went on the Bird app and have been watching where the birds are flying off to, so to speak. There were 7,000 of the scooters you counted on our streets in January. And by April?
5,500 of those had died. So yeah, of that original group of 7,000-ish, about 5,500 had been, you know, put out of service. And it's hard to tell from the data what precisely happened. You know, some of them might have broken. There is a category for submerged, when people drop them in the ocean, or like Echo Park Lake. Yeah, a lot of them were out of commission. And they'd been replaced by more. And there's actually more now. The weather's getting nicer. So there's almost 9,000 on the street today. But you know, they all had to buy them fresh, which was a lot of money that you just pour into only Los Angeles, and they're all over the world.
But it's so interesting to me, Sam, because in spite of all of these problems, right, and the fact that this seems like this model isn't going to work in this form, right?
Yeah.
There's still Skip, Spin, of course we have Lime, something called Scoot. People are piling into this industry because they think that's where the world is going.
Yeah, well, and in Silicon Valley, like getting users is the most difficult thing in people's minds these days. days. So the fact that people like riding these scooters, investors see that and they just say, why not?
We'll figure it out?
Yeah, we'll figure it out later. I mean, Uber's had 10 years to figure it out. They're still not making money. Maybe these guys can in the meantime. We'll see.
And Uber and Lyft are both getting into the two-wheel business too, right?
Yeah. So Uber and Lyft, both Uber owns Jump scooters. Lyft has its own just Lyft scooters. Also, Uber made a deal with Lime, if you see those around town. Lime scooters show up on the Uber app. So there's all these kind of crossover things because Uber thinks that basically scooters are going to eat their business of short rides, that people would prefer taking a scooter for a mile rather than like waiting for a car to show up, so on and so forth. So they think that they need to be in there, but they also don't know how to make money.
And so what does Bird say about this? I'm sure you called them for comment.
Yeah, so they say that they admit that the first scooters they launched for the past 18 months, the commercial ones, don't make any money. They break before they're profitable. They're like, sure, that was an experiment. The CEO, Travis Van Der Zanden, has said this on stage. But now they say the Bird Zeros last for 8 to 12 months, which would make them profitable. They said they wouldn't share any more specific data. It's very kind of vague. And based on what we saw, it's kind of preliminary results based on what we can pull from their app data. But we saw that they are also lasting only a couple months, 3-4 months. And we'll have much better data 6 months from now to see if that really bears out. But it kind of matches with what people have seen in other cities across the country too. It's not really.
And they're tinkering with prices too.
They're tinkering with prices, yeah. They raise prices in LA. They drop prices in some other places around the country. So they're really just trying to do whatever they can to make some kind of money and see what works. But it's definitely a little chaotic seeming from the outside. Yeah.
Well, it's a really interesting story. I'm sure you're going to keep following it. So bring us any updates. It was so interesting what you said in San Francisco. They have a tough time because they can't go up those hills.
Yeah, they claim the new models have better motors, but we'll see.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks.